Tonight's Green Report, we're going to take a look at the effect of climate change and overfishing on global marine biodiversity.
Yesterday at 5:13 p.m., a Coast Guard command center was notified of a diving accident near Alligator Reef off the coast of Florida. That's where Rob Stewart had been doing a routine dive with two friends while shooting the sequel to Sharkwater.
A couple of months ago, a Toronto-born filmmaker, scuba diver and activist by the name of Rob Stewart passed away whilst diving off the Florida coast. Now, Rob was known internationally for his film Sharkwater, in which he'd highlighted how the global demand for shark fins had driven the species to extinction, but he was also known and loved by many people at my workplace, Lush Cosmetics. In the past, Rob's NGO Fin Free had partnered with Lush to create a global campaign that had allowed citizens to take a stand for sharks in their own communities, and the sale of Lush's shark fin soap had raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, helping Rob's documentaries reach over 120 million viewers. Despite the fact that Sharkwater had won more than 40 awards at film festivals around the world, I hadn't seen it, but spurred on by the tragedy, a couple of days ago I sat down to watch. The film was an examination of global shark hunting and its effect on the ocean's ecosystem. It was beautiful. Rob was a superb cameraman, a good storyteller, and also a great educator, and two central messages have stayed with me from the film. The first is that sharks are the head of the ocean food chain and that they're in danger of extinction from overfishing and from the shark fin soup trade. If they disappear, we just don't know what might happen to the health of the ocean. And since the ocean provides half of the oxygen that keeps us alive, we should care about this dilemma very much indeed. Rob's second message was startling. He said, unless we act very quickly, all fish, not just sharks, but all fish, will be extinct in our oceans by 2048. By 2048, that's less than 30 years from now. I took that message to work the next day and spoke to a few friends about it. They had as much trouble understanding it as I do. We'd all enjoyed snorkeling or fishing or diving. We were used to seeing fish in the ocean in front of our own eyes. Now we had to accept that unless we acted very quickly indeed, we, our children and those who come after us will not see fish in the ocean after 2048. Unless that date of 2048 was wrong. Now, I'm an average guy. I got an average job. I drive a forklift, I treat wastewater with chemicals, I fix non-technical issues in the production plant. What I'm saying is, I'm not that smart. I don't really know how to investigate things like this, but this seemed really important, so I thought I'd get onto Google and give it a try. So, here goes. Fish extinct 2048. So I found some really interesting stuff online. Here's a paragraph from the Daily Telegraph in the UK. The world stocks of seafood will have collapsed by 2048 at present rates of destruction by fishing, scientists said yesterday. A 4-year study of 7,800 marine species around the world's ecosystems has concluded that the long-term trend is clear and predictable. Here's another headline from the National Geographic magazine. Unless humans act now, seafood may disappear by 2048. I found many reports just like that one, and they were all to publicise a report that had appeared in the respected journal called Science. 12 scientists from universities such as Stanford and Wyoming in the United States, Vancouver in Canada, Stockholm in Sweden, and also the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute in Panama had contributed to the work, and the guy in charge, Dr. Boris Worm of Dalhousie University in Canada, had this to say about it. We extracted all data on fish and invertebrate catches from 1950 to 2003 within all 64 large marine ecosystems worldwide. We looked at absolutely everything, all the fish, shellfish, invertebrates, everything that people consume that comes from the ocean, all of it, globally. The researchers found that 29% of species had been fished so heavily or were so affected by pollution or habitat loss that they were down to 10% of previous levels, which was the scientists' definition of collapse. When Dr. Worm had analysed the data for the first time on his laptop, he'd seen a graph with a smooth line heading downwards, and when he took the data and followed its current course into the future to see where it ends at 100% collapse, he arrived at the year 2048. Dr. Worm said, "The hair stood up on the back of my neck and I thought, this can't be true. I ran the data through my computer again, then did the calculations by hand. The results was the same. I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know what the future will bring, but this is a clear trend, he said. There is an end in sight and it is within our lifetimes. Obviously there's opposition to this report. A chap named Bertie Armstrong was reported in The Guardian as saying that this is superficial and it takes a ridiculously long timescale and does not mention the efforts being made in Europe to recover stocks as quickly as we can. But Bertie was the chief executive of the Scottish Fishermen's Federation, so you'd expect him to say that. He talked of long timescales as if it's a bad thing, when really surely it makes sense to get the big picture if you can. As for efforts being made to recover stocks, well, fair enough. If that's true, the report should have mentioned them. John Rutherford, the chief executive of Seafish, the UK seafood industry body, said, "We need to review this report in detail to fully understand its source data and methodology, and we are commissioning scientists to undertake this work on our behalf." I searched the Seafish website but could find no mention of this report that was meant to have been commissioned 11 years ago. But that wasn't surprising. Seafish gets approximately 80% of its income from a tax collected from the seafood industry. It was hardly going to rock the fishing boat, was it? So I took all this info, I sat down with a beer and thought, after the week of researching, which I admit isn't much time, but it's all I got. Life is life. I got to work and do chores and all that stuff. So after the week of researching, I looked at the pros and cons of the argument, the possible angles and motives of people who contributed to the debate, and I came up with this rationale. If the researchers are wrong and we act on their findings, the worst that will happen is a few thousand fishermen's jobs will be affected and fish stocks will rise. However, if the researchers are right and we ignore them, then every fisherman's job will be gone and there'll be no more fish in the sea. Faced with that simple choice, I decided that the decent, sensible and safe thing to do would be to believe the scientists. The fish are going to be extinct in our oceans by 2048, unless we choose to act. I want to act, so what can I do to help? The first thing was to sign lots of online petitions to ban the sale of shark fins and overfishing. Done. It didn't feel like enough. Secondly, I clicked onto the Sharkwater website and donated some cash. That was a good thing to do, but it still didn't feel like I was doing enough. Sharkwater was asking for volunteers. I signed up. It didn't feel like enough. I'm not trying to be a martyr, it's just that donating a bit of money and signing a few petitions feels like an excuse for inaction and laziness rather than actually doing something. That's when it came to me. I go on vacation at least once a year. I like tropical places like most of us, but I don't like sitting on the beach or the bar for too long. So maybe I could spend my time doing something real to help sea life in the Pacific or the Caribbean or somewhere like that. Something like a volunteering gig maybe, something offering real help. Tahiti, Sri Lanka, Thailand, they would all be great choices I think, but they're far away and the flights would be expensive and I haven't got much money. I live in a single room here, I haven't got savings or a pension plan. I can't afford to have a really expensive vacation, you know. A few workmates had been to Costa Rica. They recommended it, safe, friendly, so I clicked around the web some more, found some charities working in defence of sea life there and sent a few emails off to work out if they were on the level or not. Some charities didn't bother answering, clearly they weren't what they seemed, but some did, and one that stood out was ASTOP Turtle Conservation Project in the small Caribbean coast village of Parismina. Parismina is such a small village that there's no road to it. I'll have to get there by boat, and the nearby beaches are one of the world's most important breeding grounds for 4 types of endangered turtles. I'd be patrolling the beaches with local guards, collecting data and protecting the nests and the eggs from poachers, and also helping locals make a living from tourism, so that they didn't have to rely on killing turtles to make ends meet. It sounded great, like something that I could do in the real world to help sea life. So, I've booked 2 weeks vacation at work, I've got my flight to San Jose, and I've told ASTOP Turtles that I'm going to see them soon. Now, I know I'm opening myself up to accusations of being the average selfish Westerner here, flying overseas, well-intentioned, but still creating more carbon emissions as I do so, and perhaps trying to do something more to ease my mind than to help in reality. It'd be far, far better, perhaps, if I stayed put and let the governments of the world sort the imminent extinction of our sea life out. Let them do the right thing. But there's little to indicate that they're going to do that, not just yet anyway. Now, true, maybe I think that because I have a need to feel special, like I'm doing something adventurous with my life all the time. Or maybe I'm justified in my mistrust. I think often of the report by Dr. Worm and his summary, which went like this. Predicting a global fisheries collapse by 2048 assumes we do nothing to fix this. And shame on us if that were to be the case. Indeed, shame on us if we do nothing.
I've come to Tortuguero, which is a small village on the Caribbean coast, just north of Paris Mina, where I'll be doing the conservation project. I came here to do some wildlife viewing in the Tortuguero National Park, which is meant to be really good. The locals told me it would take 6 hours to get here by bus and boat. It took 22. I wasn't very happy. I don't have that much time to spare. And at times I just thought, well, it's like this all over the developing world. Like, why don't you just tell me the truth? But perhaps there isn't the same truth here as there is back in North America and Europe. Anyway, I've had to remember what I'm here for. I'm here for the turtles. The name of this village is Tortuguero, which means turtle meat or turtle catcher. The profession of people here before tourism was just to catch the turtles and kill them and sell their meat. And so if tourists didn't come here, maybe they'd go back to that. So we really are doing a great service by coming here. Spending our money in the hotels and the restaurants. It's only by doing that, I think, that the turtles will survive. So I try and think about that each time these little things go wrong. I'm going to have to bear that in mind, I feel, over the next couple of weeks.
I've just had the most amazing experience. I hired a guide tonight to go on a rainforest tour, and we did that, and we saw lots of snakes and spiders and lizards, and that was fun. And then we walked back along the beach, and we found a leatherback turtle pulling itself up the beach in order to lay its eggs. We hung around for a couple of hours. The turtle dug a hole and laid the eggs, and it was beyond words, really. Touching, beautiful to see, graceful. I felt as though I was slightly intrusive, of course, and I've seen it on TV before, but this was a very powerful experience to see it in the flesh. And I'm so pleased to be here now, trying to help these beautiful animals. Yeah.
Well, it's been an incredible couple of days here in Tortuguero. The wildlife viewing has been beyond my expectations. The people are lovely. It's very peaceful here. There's just the sounds of the ocean crashing on the beach, the music from restaurants and people's chatter. It's been a great place. I was a little bit angsty when I first got here because the journey from the capital city took 22 hours instead of 6. But I suppose one must expect these things when you're travelling to remote, peaceful places. There's going to be some hiccups now and again. So now I'm just going to travel down the coast by boat for a couple of hours, hopefully a couple of hours, to Parismina, which is the centre of the turtle conservation project here. I'm staying with a local family. I have no idea what to expect, so I'm a little bit nervous, but mostly excited. Back in Toronto, I've got my life quite well ordered. Everything is kind of in its place. I know what's happening, and now I have to leave all that sort of thing behind, and that's a good thing. It's good to come on vacation and just become a totally different person for a little while, I suppose. And I get to help turtles too, so great. Okay, I'm going to catch the boat.
Me asusta, ¿va?
It shouldn't be far, it's just up the road somewhere.
Yo le di a las 11, ¿verdad? Bueno, pues creo que era el
Hola.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Toma, te regalo mango de mi palo.
Thank you.
I don't know quite what I expected from the homestay, but it's really gorgeous. Let me show you around. So here's the bedroom. Got an air conditioned unit,
A lovely peaceful garden outside. Here's the living room, kitchen, and then go into the bathroom. Lovely big shower. Perfect, perfect, really. Even Pooh Bear.
Hey, get out. Move. So our volunteers' responsibility is to patrol the beach that you see behind me with our guided patrol guides, and we have shifts from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. and 12 a.m. to 4 p.m. where we'll walk the length of our 6-kilometer beach and catch any of our sea turtles. We have 3 sea turtle species that nest on our beach, and we want to protect the animals as well as remove the eggs to our guarded hatchery, which is behind me. Our guarded hatchery is monitored 24/7, so that's to keep predators out, and we also have active poachers here. So we're going to protect the animals. Some of our species, the green and the hawksbill, will be taken for their meat, and all of the eggs of all of the species can be taken. So the work that we do on the beach is really important. We also participate in our hatchery guarding duties, where we'll have shifts where we hang out here and make sure that the animals are safe. And it's really been impactful in the village as well. We're bringing volunteers out here to stay in homestays, so they have an immersive experience. They're eating the food, speaking the language, and it's I've seen a difference in simply 2 years, where my homestay originally didn't have a sink, and they didn't have, simple things in their bathroom. And I went to visit them 2 years later, and the project has allowed them to build like an area, like a workshop, so they can build things out of wood, and they've built a new bathroom, and they've upgraded, and you can see that the families in the village have been impacted by the economic stimulus that the volunteers bring in. Before ASTOP was founded, about 98% of the sea turtles and 90% of the eggs were poached, and that number's dropped to about 38% on both numbers. It's very important what we do, that we keep a volunteer presence on the beach, and that we keep removing the eggs, bringing them to our hatchery, and it's amazing to see the changes that have been made in just a short time.
Sadly, only 1 in 1,000 turtle hatchlings make it to adulthood. This little one didn't make it, sadly. What we think happens is it came up out of the nest, stuck its little nose out, and discovered it was too hot out in the day. It's been super hot today, and so it stayed there half submerged in the sand, just waiting until the cool of the evening. But it was just too hot, and I think it just cooked. If there'd have been more volunteers, there would have been someone here to watch over the hatchery and to see this happening, and perhaps put some sand over the top of it to keep it cool until the evening, and then it would have had a fighting chance. There's not so many volunteers at the moment, but hopefully there'll be more of us in the future, and we can take turns to watch the hatchery and give these little ones a good chance of surviving. just on my way to my first nighttime beach patrol, and the idea is to patrol the beach for a few hours and help ensure that nesting turtles don't get interfered with by poachers. Aslan. Aslan the golden lab. He's the family dog. Hello, come here. Ah, you've got your little walkway, have you? Hello, how are you? Let's go for a walk around the gardens, Aslan. Here's the next door neighbour's house. Look at all these lovely flowers. Here we've got a cashew nut tree. You can see the cashew nut at the bottom of that fruit there. Got the other cashew nut there. The flies eat the fruit at the top. You can see them up there, the cashew fruits at the bottom. So that's my morning stroll around the gardens, and I've greeted Aslan. Now I'm going to go in to the house again for breakfast. Oh, breakfast smells good. Rice and beans, scrambled eggs, pineapple. Oh, this looks like tortilla. Wow, lovely. Hey, gracias. So each day is different here. The turtle people like you to cover a shift at the hatchery and also a night patrol walk, but it's up to you what time you do those things. I'm going to take the 12 till 3 p.m. shift at the hatchery, and before that I'm going to have a walk around the village, perhaps go for a swim, and generally just enjoy life in small town Costa Rica. And here is Paris Mina airstrip. If you look over here, we've got the terminal. There's no one on duty at the moment. We've been told we're just going to walk down the airstrip, and that's going to take us through the rainforest and the sloths to a lagoon or something. So traffic on the airstrip.
Buen día.
Buenos días.
Buenos días. I can see just in front of me the tracks of a turtle. I'm going to investigate where it went last night and see if I can see signs of its nest. This is all the track of a turtle where it's dragged itself up the beach. And this is what's left of its nest. Well, there's tracks up the beach, but no tracks down the beach, which means the turtle managed to drag itself up. It laid its eggs just down here, and then was taken by poachers before it could get back into the sea. And by the looks of the disturbed sand, the poachers also took the eggs. This is why the work that we're doing here is so vital to try and stop this. It's almost impossible though, because the beach is 7 kilometers long. It's fenced in by rainforest. It'd be very easy to escape if you're a poacher, but we can only try, right? I just checked in at ASTOP headquarters behind me, and I'm about to go to the hatchery. There's something going on there.
Pásame el otro kili, por favor. Hoy sí, préstame el guante para no usar otro. Son baulas, ¿verdad? Baulas son esos baulas.
Baby turtles have been coming out of this nest for a couple of days now, so what we're doing is reaching down into the bottom of it to see what's left. If we don't do this, the baby turtles that are left down there might not get out. So far we've got four babies still alive, but there's lots of other eggs that didn't make it. That could be for a variety of reasons. It could be some bacterial infection, we don't know. But four's good, four's something.
Siempre hay una lente en el grupo, pero aquí fueron 3.
It's a bit stuck, this one, it's in a hole.
Está justo al revés, más bien. ¿Sí?
I have the gloves, so I can't. Trail for him.
Viene la 1, viene la 1. Se queda que
And it's away. There's another baby down here. They're tapping the sand to mimic the sound of the ocean because baby turtles do respond to the vibration of the waves. They're trying to make it go that way.
Just a little bit further. One more big wave.
So that when they get in the way. We're so tired. I've been wishing.
Right, just stand there. And it's gone. So after all that struggle, the turtles finally made it into the ocean. If they're female, after about 25 years, they'll make it back to this same beach, crawl up and lay their eggs here. That was wonderful to see that. Just about to set off on my third night shift patrolling the beach. The first 2 nights I did the 8 until midnight shift. I didn't see any turtles and the guides said that was because there was a full moon and the turtles don't like too much light. Tonight I'm doing the midnight until 4 AM shift. There's a bit of cloud cover, so fingers crossed I'm going to see something. Hey Aslan, how you doing? You a good boy? Hello? Hello? I've got to go down the beach. I'll see you when I come back at about 4 AM, alright? Good boy, stay there.
Porque en el fin del campo, allá, en el fin del aterrizaje, hay otra tortuga que ella está limpiando.
So a very strange thing just happened. I turned up on the beach just before 12 o'clock for my shift. And I met a guide who was carrying a sack of turtle eggs, and he said a leatherback turtle had just laid about 50 meters away. So I thought I'd go over there and maybe film her as she made her way back to the ocean. I went and I saw her, but the guide didn't seem too keen on me filming. Even though I got permission, and even though all the guides know I've got permission, instead, he said to me that just up the beach was another guide with a few tourists, and they were watching another turtle who hadn't laid her eggs yet, that she was still preparing her nest, and that it would be good for me to go and film that, and that she was very close. So close that he could see them through the dark. Anyway, after half an hour of walking in the direction he pointed me, it became clear that I'd been misled. And I started to get a pretty bad feeling in my stomach. My gut said I should get out of there. And so I did. On the way back to the hatchery, I passed a couple of guides. I was meant to be with them tonight. They didn't express much of an interest in taking me along, sadly. And so I came back. I guess I'm starting to join a few dots, and as is often the case, when you start to see a bigger picture, it's not that pretty. I know that from what I've been told, that over half the people in this village still eat turtle meat, and maybe there's quite a few poachers who are actually living here. I don't know if that's true, but it would certainly account for the reluctance to have me filming on the part of some people. So I can just reiterate that these turtles really need help. They're really up against it here. If you're an educator, then please come down and do your stuff. You know, teach the local people the value of the food chain and the value of turtles. And if you're an animal activist, bring a friend, bring lots of friends, and be a presence on the beach. I wish I could go back out there tonight, but I'm not going to be much use on my own. So the turtles are on their own, sadly. God help them.
What we got? Fruits, sweet, pancakes and maple syrup, and of course strong coffee. It's been a thinking kind of day. I haven't done much to do with the turtle conservation project yet. After last night, I had a little bit to ponder. The feeling I got on the beach last night was similar to the feeling I had when I was traveling in Peru and Colombia during the height of the terrorism problems there. It's the same feeling I had when I was traveling for a few months around South Africa just before Nelson Mandela got released from prison and tensions were very high. And it's the same feeling I had when I was apprehended by terrorists in Egypt. And each time I've listened to that feeling and changed tack very quickly from whatever I was doing. I hope I've done you justice. I hope I've showed you what it's actually like to be here as a volunteer. It's testing. It tests your mind and your body. But I don't want to give you the impression that it's overly dangerous. I'm just being cautious because I want to get back for many reasons, but one of which is that it's important to make this film. I think it's going to help the turtles. I should also say, to be fair, to balance that the guides I've met have been good people. They go to work with the look of men who are about to cross the picket line. I know that lots of people who live around them in the village are people who poach turtles, who still eat turtles, and they know that by guarding the turtles on the beach, they're going very much against the culture, and they're doing so for very little money. So I have great respect for them. On the cultural issue, I've got something to say. Where I come from, people are fond of saying, well, if it's your culture, I respect that, I'm going to step back and let you do what you want. There's other people who say that all it takes for evil to flourish is for good people to stand by and do nothing. And I find it very hard to reconcile those two points of view. I've been around the world and I've seen many instances of culture. I've seen men sitting under trees in Africa while their women folk till the ground and fetch the water and do all the hard work. I've seen incidences of female circumcision or mutilation, however you want to call it, and men saying that it's their culture, they should be allowed to do that. In fact, most times when culture is raised as an objection for progress, it's men objecting on the grounds of that they want to keep things as they are, they want to stay in control. That's basically it. And I'd say to people in Paris Mina, yes, your grandparents might have eaten turtle and your parents might have eaten turtle, but that's no reason to go on doing so. The world's changing, it's changing fast, and we need to adapt and change fast. And you need to stop eating turtles and start to protect them because they're a vital part of our food chain. Beach cleanup time. We're cleaning the beach of plastic so when the turtles come to nest they don't get tangled up in it or eat something they shouldn't. In there, Rick?
Some plastic cups, some tops of beer cans.
Oh yeah.
Plastic, a lot of the netting that you would get those chocolate Easter eggs in, the little bags.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Just arrived at the Kelly Creek Hotel in Cahuita. It's a beautiful old wooden bungalow by the sea. I'm going to show you around. In front of me there is reception and one of the rooms. Guest rooms are here. There's a lovely bit of rainforest inside the hotel grounds with the Caribbean Sea beyond.
Yeah, we don't have any more beside the Is he the only one that comes round, or is he one for a while between minutes?
Adult sloth is rehabilitating cats. So they hunt visually, so they can see a monkey running past their vision, but a sloth kind of moving like a tree, not so much.
Okay.
However, these are parts not very far. But yeah, I just hope you guys have had a good time. Yeah, she is. I mean, I'll allow it that she's the national mammal of Costa Rica.
Coming in. Of course, we must have a sloth recognized between a 2-finger compared to a 3-finger, right? And that difference of size, because of a difference, you get 2-finger, 3 toes, 3-finger, 3 toes, right? 2 lines at the same time, right? Electrocute, fall into the ground. Something like that, right? Remember, sloth falling or free fall from a sloth, you guys. What do you say, you guys? What animal comes to your mind right now? Jaguar, all right. What is that?
Oh.
They have their own stuffed
Oh,
animals.
our own stuffed animals.
Yes.
Oh gosh, what a job. So a stuffed animal could do that.
Oh well,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, it's that's something many things that we've been learning, you know,
Yeah.
throughout the years, right? We know now. I mean, because of our experts, we know that just like on humans, the releasing of oxytocin is extremely important for the well of the animal.
So they're actually affectionate with one another when they're babies, even
Yeah,
though
I mean, what happens is that, I mean, these, it will be out there, it will be like this, but with mommy. So, I mean, they don't know the difference, that's it, right? Right? Right now, in terms of Caribbean lowlands, right? 96 different species of tropical trees.
So they mentioned that they
few months ago, I asked myself what I could do personally to help the state of the oceans and to help ensure that fish are still around by 2048. I think I've got some ideas now. The first is, if you can possibly spare a few days of your own vacation to go and do something like I did in Costa Rica, I know you're going to find it an interesting, fulfilling experience, and it's going to make a positive difference to the state of our oceans. If you can't spare a day or two, then consider visiting animal sanctuaries when you're on vacation. They're a lot of fun, and your entrance fees really help them to survive. They're very important. A second thing you can do is stop using plastic bags. Sometimes they make their way into the ocean. Sea turtles eat them, they think they're jellyfish, and the bags get stuck in their stomach and kill them. So try and use reusable bags instead. A third thing you can do if you really care about fish is consider stop eating them. I'd also say stop buying cheap fruit at the supermarket if you can. I used to do it, I don't now. Costa Rica has a reputation of being a real natural paradise, but it's also the world's leading user of pesticides. Thanks to companies like Chiquita that produce our bananas, Del Monte and Dole that produce bananas and pineapple and other fruit. Many of the animals that we saw in the sanctuaries in Costa Rica were born deformed thanks to the pesticide use by these companies, and actually many of the people who work on the plantations are turned infertile thanks to their exposure to these pesticides. You really don't want to be supporting companies that do that, and also, do you really want that stuff inside you? If it does that to the animals and the people there, what's it doing to you? I'd advise you to buy local, buy organic. Go to your local farmers market if you can. Create a connection with someone. It's much nicer. It's going to cost you a bit more than the supermarket, but it's worth it. It's worth it for you, for your health, and for the health of our world. It's also possible to use your passion to influence others to affect change. Maybe if you know someone who works in a big company that is doing things they shouldn't regarding the environment, maybe you can let them know that it concerns you. What can they do about that? If you don't know anyone but you still want to take on these big companies, Google non-violent resistance. You're going to find lots of ideas of how to take on corrupt, dangerous regimes, be they governmental or corporate. They'll give you lots of ideas of how to do so non-violently and legally. And if you feel like it, speak to your friends and families about this dire situation that our oceans are in. Many of them won't know about it, and when they hear about it, they'll want to do something too. And finally, I know sometimes it can feel lonely and dispiriting when you're trying to do good stuff and you're seemingly surrounded by decent people who are doing nothing to help the state of the environment. But hang on in there, trust in your process, trust that doing good is worth something. The animals need you, and so do we. Good luck. Thanks for watching.